Good morning, or good evening, wherever you are, addicts, and welcome to another SMDP webinar. Very pleased to have you here today. We'll be discussing MEDA to pro-poor value chain enterprise development with our speaker, the anniversary on the DC was in just Dr. King that day.
Even though difficulties come on, I still have a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream. This nation will rise, live out its creed.
And around the world today, and the people that have been involved in the civil rights here in the United States, and I think very much the work of SMDP and really the work that we're talking about today in terms of value chain development is an extension of giving financial access and fighting for economic justice globally, and MEDA is a leader in that. What I want to do is just please introduce our speaker today. Dan Gordon is, as I said, a senior consultant, project manager at MEDA and Associates. She has an extensive rural development in the nonprofit and government development and extension from the area design, various agriculture, agri-food, and related value chain in the world. Market development projects in Afghanistan, Tanzania, Pakistan, as well as a number of consultancies in other countries where MEDA is active. Some of Van's latest contributions and mentoring, as well as on understanding gender and value chain. Afghanistan. And I just want to mention a long-term relationship with MEDA that extended the creation of SMDP. We started doing work with them, I think it was back in 2000. Been very happy to a number of different East and West as well as events here in team cutting edge work around access markets and helping market infrastructure. And without further ado, I'd like to turn and welcome you to the
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Share screen.
Everyone, good morning here.
Just waiting to get your presentation up.
Okay.
You should be seeing Anne's presentation coming up. Ah, there we go. And do you have something?
Yes.
Okay, I think we're all set then. Okay, you can go ahead. Sorry, we just want to make sure we're actually seeing the same thing together here. So, okay.
All right, and I just had a message who happens to be attending this, and she says she can see things fine. Good morning, everyone. Here from what? And
Okay,
hello,
excellent. Okay.
hello to those of you who are in whatever time zone. It's really good to have. My intent today in the webinar is to introduce you to understanding about our or value chain development approach. So to show the applications it has to the model and years ago by a group of Mennonite businessmen who wanted that were struggling in May. And so MEDA's first investment was a dairy in Paraguay, but evolved into an international development NGO, and we were in many different countries around the globe, known as Mennonite Economic Development. Our tagline is creating solutions to poverty. It is known for its innovative, flexible focus and being result. It works with partners to solve problems of poverty from the ground up. Its solutions are market-driven, and that's bridging through structures and mechanisms. 34 million families in over 44 countries. Gain approach projects. Afghanistan, entrepreneurship, and I'm going to and a client's perspective and how their change due to some of this. I'll also mention that, you know, these three projects being highlighted from our Canadian, but that we all do have a number of USAID projects, U.S. Department of Labor, Gates Foundation. So for investment arm, Sorona, just look this morning, a number of other in the world in our projects. So the first project, and the short you'll see coming up, PTGG. Just overview, it was a 4-year, $5 million Canadian-funded project, and it was focused on agriculture and women's economic development in Afghanistan. The value chain was the horticulture sector, in particular vegetables, and its goal was to boost income, improve women's skills and status, and increase the household food security. So what did we do? Well, we increased income, we strengthened the access to markets for isolated women using a lead farmer. Those farm rose from $38 to $123, and 92% of those clients became regular savers. Now, We did this project through value chain development. Our lens, as I said earlier, is market-based. We look at building income for the poorest of the economically active, integrating micro and small enterprises, as well as medium enterprises. We do look at the whole value chain and where there might be the best opportunity for growth. And we work in facilitating markets to work better for small producers. We lay out the actual handouts, giving, doing ourselves. We believe in market facilitation or facilitating markets to work. The trying working in any of our areas in value chain work is that significant pro-poor impact. So how great can the reach be? How many people? We want to maximize as many people as we can and reach as many of the poor as possible. They're tailored and demand-driven. We work looking for those full interventions, sustainable practices. We promote empowerment. We're focused on developing market systems, encouraging innovation and stimulating market, helping us to go value chain approach in their work and stimulating that take-up throughout the market system. And that is, I say, although it's bullet on this, is one of the most, we can different value chains to work in, but focused and we all back to what is the end market. Who's going to buy what we're doing? How can we maximize for that producer in the value chain? So the end market is so very, very important in our work. Many of you who are joining today are probably familiar with this value chain structure in the value chain development work, but we really try and keep this central. While the value chain and the relationships in that value chain, you'll see the input supplier, producer, wholesaler, retailer, and of course the end market are important, and that's a huge focus in value chain development. We don't ignore the other things around it because it's very dynamic. It doesn't seem always mindful and seeing the environment for business and social impact, the policy and regulatory framework, the economics that we're in, looking at the various value chains. Looking at the enterprise performance or the farm performance, what's going on there, and the leadership and an entrepreneurship within that value chain. Who are the leaders? Who can help us to take this, the intervention we might decide on to really greater. And of course, you see that green, so important, the support products and services, whether those are finance or communication or trucking or whatever those are that impact on how the value chain works and the dynamics of that value chain. So in through the garden gate, we applied the approach, look at market, determined by the different consumer demands. We looked at the environment for business. We looked at the value chain relationships were there, both those that were vertical and horizontal in the value chain, like how were farmers interacting with one another, how were the market players interacting with each other, and how were they how was the interfirm cooperation, what was happening there. We looked at the support products and services, what was there, what sector-specific ones for those vegetables, and the cross-cutting issues that would be important important, as well as the financial access in the value chain. We looked at the enterprise or the family, the household performance, and the leadership and the entrepreneurship in the vegetable, the horticulture sector there. Some of the techniques and processes that we use in our value chain in design, and it's a complete package, or it can be a package that you would do I would say not selectively, but you might start out with the market research, the value chain selection, the goal purpose articulation, and the value chain mapping. And then as you are doing that, understanding that, oh, maybe we need a little more information, so going back then and gaining a little more market research, but ultimately leading you to number 7, which is looking at the strengths and constraint analysis within that value chain. What are the things that value chain is doing well, we want to build on? What are the things that are holding it back? What are those barriers? And how can we address them? And inevitably, there are many more barriers than you're probably able to deal with in a project. So then at that point in time, whether it's well, you might even do it in step 2 in your value chain selection. You know, the important factor is your donor and your donor's preferences and what they're wanting to really do, and to really the type of beneficiaries they're wanting to reach. So this is the steps and the processes in value chain intervention design, project design that we follow fairly rigidly. We might go through it very rapidly. We might have a bit of luxury to go back and revisit again. It just depends on the donor and the timing of the particular project. But that's the process we use in our value chain intervention design. Let's move on to another project that we just finished not long ago in Pakistan, Pathways and Purse Strings. This project was a 5-year project, 18 million Canadian. It was a women's economic development project in Pakistan, focused on 4 different sectors: milk, embellished fabrics, seedlings, and bangles. And its ultimate goal was to increase income of homebound women, but also improve the capacity of local partners to implement market-driven projects. And we're going to look at this project through the M4P lens. And in general, just to give you a bit of an overview about M4P, M4P looks at these 4 general areas. They look at temporary and catalytic interventions, those interventions that actually would expand some of the take-up to overcome the market failures and constraints that are important to the poor. M4P feels that influencing market systems and development is very, very important, and it offers that is where the increased opportunity and benefits for poor people come from. And it really likes to feature systemic and institutional change. The use of market-based incentives to leverage the enterprise, contribution development, and ensure sustained impact. An example in, as we walk through the next few slides, but one of the examples of that in PNP was the change in perception of the gender roles, or the fact that women had more decision-making power in the household because of the project. So those systematic and institutional change pieces are very important to the M4P lens. And fourthly, successful interventions lead to the overall important sustained pro-poor growth, better opportunities, incomes, and choices for poor men and women. So those are some of the cornerstones of the M4P lens. And in Pathways and Purse Strings, if you took the M4P lens and the analysis piece and did a basic map with it, it would look something like this. That at the one end is the rural embroiderer, And that's what you'll see the short form RE in a number of the upcoming slides, and that's what that stands for, the rural embroiderer. They were making traditional designs, low quality inputs, resulting products, often low quality. These were the sector of embellished fabrics. Often it was a male relative then that took their product to the retailer, or it might be that male relative even gave it to another intermediary to give to the retailer and supplier. And those products that were delivered as those were poorer quality products, and hence then the end market were the low rural low-end consumer. So that is in a diagrammic way, sort of the flow of the project of the embellished fabric sector. And this is a way that the M4P lens starts to pull together what the picture of the sector looks like. The next slide is really focusing in on the map, the actual intervention that was selected, and the impacts. Because in M4P, the market system changes, as I mentioned before, are very, very important, and the ultimate outcome being poverty reduction. So if we look at the Pathways and Purse Strings project through this lens, one of our main interventions was that the project trained and supported women to adopt a new sales agent business model. You'll see that in the frame right at the bottom of this map. To the right then, you'll see our other intervention activity. Project links link the sales agents and the high-end retailers and wholesalers, and also designers as well. So once we did that, you'll see the resulting changes, and you'll see that red box that's there, that the market system changes being the most important, that women adopted the new sales agent business model and developed the rural embroiderers to have a better quality service offering. And the sales agents then deliver these embedded services actually to the rural embroiderers. On the far right side of this diagram, you'll see that our linkages with the high-end wholesalers, retailers, and designers resulted in the development of those linkages. And then what we also saw in this project was a lot of what we would say is crowding in, others that were copying, people that necessarily weren't direct beneficiaries, but they saw what was happening, and so they wanted to copy or to do it that were likely outside our purvey of the project. But those are the kinds of systematic changes that an M4P approach really praises as a high value. And if we look at that just as a general background to the model, the M4P change attribution, change 3 being the ultimate income, which is off poverty reduction, they're looking at the activity or the intervention and to what extent did that change occur due to the program activity from change 1 to change 2 to change 3. And that whole model is a very important way of looking at the market systems and changes within that in the M4P model. You might compare this, those of you who are familiar with the value chain model, you might to some extent compare this to the causal model in value chain development. So let's apply that then to Pathways and Purse Strings, and you will see that talk about the activities we did, the systemic interventions. What the market changes we saw were 175 active community sales agents and independent sales agents earning approximately $200 per month. We saw a lot of crowding in, that copying the action, although the people might not have been direct beneficiaries of our project. We saw that copying new services, new markets. There were some lead rural embroiderers that actually increased became community sales agents. The community sales agents often became some independent sales agents or sales agents that were linked directly with the retail outlets. And our partners or the associations we worked with. If you will recall, one of our goals was to help those other institutions and associations that we were working with understand the value chain approach, or in this, as we're looking through it here, the M4P approach. And we did that because associations organized exhibitions, provided linkages, and they started to deliver the training and supports to the sales agents. Going to the next level of change, our P&P results saw changes in some of the enterprise performance. 9,300 rural embroiderers produced garments for high-end customers, and you saw improved quality and improved designs. Rural entrepreneurs, the ultimate change, the poverty reduction on this change attribution scale, the rural entrepreneurs earning approximately $22 per month. That was up from the $6 that we noted in the baseline. And nearly all rural entrepreneurs or embroiderers reported increased contribution to household decision-making, greater control over income, and respect from husbands and the family in-laws. So M4P will stress that some conventional value chain responses may miss the link to the market system change, but that's very important, and that's really the a huge emphasis in the M4P lens. And again, the market system change is very important. The last project I want to talk about today is the final lens, and that's the client perspective, the beneficiary perspective. You know, we can get caught up in all of these processes and applications, and you know, we forget the client and the beneficiary is the most important. So what are they saying? So I thought I would draw on the most recent project that I've been involved with at MEDA, and that is the Ethiopians Driving Growth Through Entrepreneurship and Trade. It's a project in Ethiopia that is at its midpoint of a 3-year term, $12 million Canadian project focused on 2 sectors, rice and handwoven textiles. Its goal is to increase income for producers by facilitating access to growing markets, improved production, appropriate technologies, improved inputs, and affordable support services. So in our value chain development assessment and our approach, one of the interventions we focused on had to do with unlocking entrepreneurship and building resilient livelihoods through village savings and loan associations. And one of the stories from our clients, or the client's perspective of that, comes from a village and savings loan association called Addis Alam. And this, let me talk to you for a moment about that. In 2011, Gazachu, a rice farmer, received MEDA's training in this project on the benefits of savings and how to form a village savings and loan association within his community. So the training covered topics on savings and credit and managing risk, resolving conflict. MEDA had also provided Gazachu with the necessary materials to start savings, and that included a savings box, a couple of locks, some passbooks, plastic plates, and bookkeeping ledger. Gazachu then recognized the vulnerability of his livelihood and the serious lack of savings in his community, and as a result established the Addis Alam VSLA. And in Amharic, Addis Alam means new world, or the appreciating what new thing you have, which reflects the farmer's change in mindset towards the savings. Because Gazachu led then the formation of the group and trained the 13 members on VSLA methodology. And that VSLA at the time collectively agreed to save 3 birr and 1 birr weekly for the regular savings and social fund respectively. So this group eventually decided to invest 2,000 birr from their accumulated savings into 2 plots of land. They planted rice and obtained 3 quintals of rice. And the Adasalam Savings and Loan Group now plans to store the rice for up to 6 months and sell the crop when the price is high. But the most, I think, enduring impact of Adasalam Savings Associations is how it's changed its members' perceptions of savings. Before the formation of the VSLA, members never saved, but now each member understands the importance and necessity of saving, and they have experienced how savings can positively impact the farm, their family, and their future. I'm going to end with that story and just take some questions now. My hope is that everyone has a better understanding of MEDA, our approach to market-led value chain development, and our M4P applications. But it is only a snapshot, and so I would welcome any questions that people have.
Okay, and I'm waiting for questions to come in. I'll field them as they come, but maybe I'll ask a couple of questions while we're waiting for questions to come in. The Ethiopia project is so there. How many VSLAs have been set up, and what is the projection for how large this project is going to go? Was it a pilot to just do it with a few groups, or is it plans to expand it to be a fairly large program?
It is in the hundreds for sure. So it's not just a pilot. So we also, Bill, have another project there called eFace, and that project works with those sectors as well, only focused on child labor. And we're doing VSLAs with them and are up into the 500 and 600 numbers of those. So no, that's a major way that we are seeing in those in the value chain, particularly the textile value chain, to create some significant change with those farmers, those producers.
Okay. We do have a question now from Alexandra Nunez. She says, I am having a hard time seeing how I can apply this in the MFI where I work. Mm-hmm. We don't have any concentrated sectors. I work in the Dominican Republic with the average size of loans about $250.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, it depends on what the business focus is of the MFI. I mean, if some MFIs certainly want to get into this kind of approach, but others want to align themselves with organizations who would be doing this. So, and that's a really valuable, position to be able to find the organizations that are using these kinds of approaches to market development, and as an MFI, aligning themselves with those organizations to try and, you know, be the MFI that could actually connect to that. Now, certainly, MFIs, not many I know of, are in the Village Savings and Loan, well, I want to say purview. But that doesn't mean they couldn't encourage that, because as village savings and loans graduate, then that gives an opportunity for more clients for MFIs.
Great. We have another question from Latte Lawson. What is the importance of the support product service in the value chain?
Very important. We're talking about the support products and services are things like finance, like MFIs, They are communications vehicles, so they might be cell phone companies, those internet providers. They can be a trucking company. Those are the kinds of services and products that are essential for producers, processors, for all of those in the value chain to do their business most effectively. So it's really important. Now, there are some cases where those are not there, and so then it becomes a situation of what kind of intervention or smart subsidy or certain kind of action or activity you might take to stimulate that business service or product service to develop in that particular sector, so that both the businesses in the service sector thrive, as do the value chain players and their businesses and the enterprises there. If I could just go back, I just had another thought about the MFI question earlier, Bill. You know, the reason we are actually doing VSLAs in Ethiopia is because we didn't have the strength in the microfinance sector there, or the depth, and to want to or be able to address the financial barriers that our clients had. And so VSLAs are often a really nice bridge intervention to helping enterprises create the wealth they need to then access the microfinance institution. Any other questions?
Oops. Did you hear that question, Ann?
I did not, and so could you repeat that?
I'll try again. In terms of the lead farmer approach or the development of sales agents, how do the social dynamics work? Are they perceived negatively, similar to perceptions of middlemen or traders in many countries, especially if they come from within the community? Is there a need to manage jealousies, such as of non-lead farmers or non-sales agents, or the desire not to stand out or stand up within the community? Are producers willing to work cooperatively with the lead farmers or sales agents? Good question, Gail.
Yes, we have not had any problem with that at all. In fact, because the lead farmer, he's seen as an innovator, and he's often respected, and in some cases that lead farmer is selected by the members of the community that are there. So I guess it depends on the context, but certainly in both the Through the Garden Gate project and Pathways and Purse Strings, those sales agents were they were essential. Those farmers couldn't actually the farmers or the rural embroiderers were getting more money for their product, and they saw this this sales agent as a key component in that. So they were quite well accepted anywhere that that I was familiar with.
Okay, Aline McMahon has asked the question, could you talk more about the Afghanistan project? What specific interventions and resulting changes or impacts did you see?
Well, the interventions in Afghanistan were twofold. One was the creation of the sales agent. So in Afghanistan, women could not go to the market to sell their product, right? They couldn't leave the home. There's a real concern about that. They're very homebound, and that's cultural, and that's due to the long history there. And they also, because of the years of war, they had forgotten, or the ability to grow good vegetables had not been handed down to them. So our interventions were around horticulture techniques in growing the vegetables that we highlighted, and we targeted crops. So we targeted carrots, cucumbers, onions, potatoes, tomatoes, and grapes. And so then our horticulture practices were focused on that. At the same time, we gave them our intervention was around savings groups, and each of the communities had savings organizations, and then the sales agent model. So that sales agent that would represent that particular village, they would go and get the inputs, the seeds, the tools that they needed to do the horticulture project with, come back to the village. Those farmers would buy those, and that sales agent would keep a modest commission. Then at the time of harvest, that sales agent would take the produce to market, and the sales agent was often a woman who was maybe older, perhaps widowed, someone with a little more responsibility. So there were those women that did exist. And they would go to the market, sell the product, bring the money back for the farmers with taking a small commission as part of that, because that was their business. So those were some of the sales agent model, giving them business skills and financial skills and horticulture techniques to improve the production of those vegetables.
Great, thank you, Anne. This question is from Kanathila Shivaram. What are the capacity building training skills given to the VSLA to take these, I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble reading this. What are the capacity building training skills given to VSLA to take of these VC and ED? What is the sustainable mechanism to approach?
Well, certainly we have community workers or community facilitators are part of our projects, and we provide them with the training around the sales, the savings box, the locks, the passbooks, the plastic plates, the savings plates, and the bookkeeping ledger. So we provide those kinds of trainings for the community facilitator, and that facilitator, community worker, you can call them many different things. They then work with that community and pass that training along. So it's a train the trainer model, because we simply can't get the kind of reach we'd like if we are out there doing it all ourselves. So we do use that training the trainer type of model.
This is a question from Herman Massan. In your experience, how does the involvement of large corporate and large financial institutions, et cetera, help in initiating the structuring and organization of the value chain? Can this help to move from a donor-initiated intervention to more sustainable interventions?
I think it has the potential to do that, and that's certainly a long-term impact. So as an example, in our Pathways and Purse Strings project in the milk sector, we used a lead firm. So in other words, a larger corporate structure was part of the process, and that lead firm was a milk processor. And one of our community workers actually, or facilitators, was an employee within that business. And they worked with the farmers that were producing the milk for them and the milk collectors, and it was an integral part. So we built them right into that intervention, so they were an integral part of that. Now that's not to say it was easy, and but I think building them in there as an integral part and using what we would call in value chain the firm model, or involving those medium and larger firms in that value chain and as part of the process is really very important. I mean, you have to look at it as a win-win. The farmer gains more money, the intermediate gains more money. Will that customer pay for a better product? And then making sure everyone along the way to accessing that market wins along the way.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ann. We have a few more questions. Irina Ignatieva has asked a question. Could you please give an example of a smart subsidy from one of your projects?
Okay, we do smart subsidies all the time in our projects, and we often do them in the form of vouchers. So, as an example, in the Ethiopian project right now, we are introducing a new technology, a new thread winding tool, and that will make it easier and faster, and the product will be better. So basically, working with a lead firm to acquire this, we're giving we're giving a voucher to the actual producer. That producer will go in, and that voucher gives them an off this thread winder. The lead firm turn that in with also they have to also put money in towards, so it might be $1 they would put in, or half a dollar, 50 cents, and they will then access that tool. So MEDA does that all the time. We do it once. It's a one-time thing. It's usually to get people to adopt, to try new technology, because often producers are reluctant, especially if it costs a lot, to try it. But once they've tried it and they see it works for themselves, then and they see that by using that they're going to get more money for their product that results as a result of that, they will invest in that more themselves. So that's just one example.
Okay, this is from your colleague Rachel Bernstein, who asks, what kind of academic preparation would you recommend for those interested in doing similar work?
Well, I would say that you definitely need a master's degree of some kind, whether that MEDA typically hires people with MBAs often. But also, for myself, I have a master's in extension and capacity building. So a master's level is important. And then attending a training, a specific training on value chain, pro-poor value chain and enterprise development, like the ones that SMDP offers. Also, or going to an M4P type training. I believe that it's the Springfield Center in Scotland offers those, and they offer those in Scotland, and I believe they also have an international location, so that would be the focus on the M4P approach. So that's what I would recommend wanting to be part of this sector and enjoy both the rewards and you know, the frustrations of working in the sector. But it's mostly rewards, that's for sure. So, and I would encourage anyone who's interested to think about that, an advanced graduate degree, and then getting some specific training in value chain development or M4P.
Great, thank you, Anne. Kingsley Ijim has asked this question. I work in Development Education Center in MFI in Nigeria, and we're about to introduce assets loans for the rural people. I don't know if this will make a good impact. So do you have any comments on asset loans as a way of helping rural development, people to...
yeah. Kingsley, I'm not really familiar with asset loans and impact. I think, though, thinking through how that would actually impact a particular value chain that you're working in, or working with someone that's using an M4P approach might be the way to go. And of course, doing it on a pilot scale will give you a little bit more sense of how appropriate that might be for the sector or the market area that you're working in.
Okay, Latelasan has asked the question, what kind of relations can exist vertically?
Ah, hi Latte, how are you?
Do you need him to?
No, that's good.
I think him to, okay.
No, that's good. Well, all good. You asked vertically or horizontally?
Vertically.
Vertically, okay. So that really the kinds of realistic buying and selling relationship often, or it could be an embedded service. So for instance, let's say I'm a milk producer, and I'm working and I want to get my milk to the processor, and that processor wants to guarantee that he's getting that milk in a timely fashion. So for instance, that processor may in fact include or embed a trucking service for those farmers to get that milk to either the processor or a local station of some sort. So that's one example of a relationship between a processor and a producer. Latte, is that the kind of thing you're looking for?
Let's see if I get a response. Yes, he says. Okay, good.
Good.
This is from Sophia Adamu from Zaria, Nigeria. And hi, Sophia. She says, do the go-betweens train the housebound women? So she's talking about the project in Afghanistan. Do the go-betweens train the housebound women also on market dynamics, i.e. the business techniques, negotiations, etc.? I'm not sure I got that. How does the arrangement really work for both groups? It sure sounds like a win-win situation, but I don't quite understand how it works.
Well, certainly MEDA it's a train-the-trainer kind of approach. So MEDA would train both the producers and the sales agents about those business skills, so that everyone had that. And then certainly in the Pathways and Purse Strings project, we also brought in designers, and we created those linkages between the sales agent and designers. And then those sales agents were also able then to embroiderers, so that those rural embroiderers were developing better designs. As you can imagine, some of the designs, if you have seen any of these kinds of fabric designs, they're often, they would spend hours and hours putting embellishments all over a fabric, when really the most efficient and effective and the cost-effective way is to do it in a certain portion with a certain design. And so those were the kinds of little things that we introduced and we trained both sales agents and farmers, so everyone knew. So it was very open and transparent, and that also built the win-win for those relationships within the value chain.
Okay, great. We have one final question. This is from Juan Ferrero. Juan asks, does MEDA become part of the new business once it's created as an investor, board member, shareholder?
It depends. MEDA does have some investments. For instance, we have an investment in a large MFI in Tajikistan, and we've had that for 10 years, so we're an investor in that MFI. So we do. MEDA, through MEDA's Sirona investment capital portion of our business, that's where we actually can invest in certain businesses. Just like in value, the market is really important. The business opportunity has to be there. And in some cases, MEDA would step in because they see the business opportunity, but the actual market sector is not necessarily as developed as it could be along for a period of time. And it gives us an opportunity then, too, to do things over a long term. We all know that projects, you know, if you get a window of 5 or 4 years, and as much as we try to be sustainable within that context, it is very difficult. So Sirona investment capital portion of MEDA's business gives us the opportunity to really do some more longer term work with organizations and investments.
Well, I think it's also a tribute to MEDA as being an organization that actually works in a variety of different ways. You have a lot of expertise in microfinance, but you also have been involved in market development and value chain development for years, so it gives you the flexibility to kind of address things from many different angles.
And to work together to do that.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And to work together to do that,
absolutely.
To integrate those, because they're not,
right, and it may mean the amount it's not used to doing, and market development people dealing with finance. So I'm just going to ask the one little follow-up from Sophia, and then that'll be the final question, and then we have some important announcements. Sophia says the Central Bank of Nigeria is introducing movable assets for collateral, like sheep or goats, in order to access microfinance loans. Do you think this will make loans more accessible to SMEs? Will it help growth?
It may, but I'm not really familiar with that either, using that. But let me just say that I know in our work in Ethiopia, we have been, MEDA, one of the other interventions MEDA has been doing is working with a guarantee fund with one of the major banks there. And one of our blocks that we're working through now and trying to make adjustments with is that class is comfortable with having it prohibitive to a large number of the beneficiaries taking advantage of it. So we have to work very closely with the financial institutions, and the financial institution really also in and invest some of well, I use the word invest, but they have to take some risks. Calculated risks, of course, but especially if perceived as being a problem as well.
Excellent questions. I think you are fortunate to have someone with the expertise of Anne and the extensive that MEDA does in Africa and throughout the world. So we really want to thank you, Anne, for being able for really an excellent presentation, and remind people that this entire webinar is been recorded and it will be available on the SMDP webinar page in a day or two, along with a PDF of Ann's slides. So those of you who are asking about that, will be up there. You should recommend as one of the this work. This one will be presenting a 2-week track on Pro-Poor enterprise and value chain development and finance, and that'll be in Arusha, Tanzania, November 11th through the 15th. Will be Pro-Poor enterprise and value chain development. This will be facilitated by Ann, and will include some visits, but a very extensive overview of how this methodology works, and helping people to really look at your own organizations, your own situations, and figure out ways that you can apply these principles in ways that will help the communities that you serve. The second week, November 18th to 22nd, we'll be featuring practical skills for agricultural value chain financing. This is with Richard Pellerine from Inspired International. Rich has experience in really all parts of actual finance, and being able to look at the coffee value chain, which is the same value in Ann's course the week before. So the 2-week combined track, I think, could be a very, very thorough, very effective way for you to learn what is the most cutting edge and important skills, have opportunity to talk to other practitioners doing this work from all over Africa, and also be able to learn from Rich and Ann in a very intensive format. So we encourage you to go to our website. The SMDP website has registration up there. There are also MasterCard Foundation scholarships available. We'll have a number of scholarships available for female practitioners from Africa who would like to be a part of this training. I also want to remind you that we do have some upcoming webinar with Chuck Waterfield from Microfinance Transparency. The leaders in the past 5 years to really shine light on how microfinance institutions come up with their pricing, exactly what clients are paying, and help to kind of encourage the industry to be more transparent in every way of how they're serving their clients. So it should be really a fascinating webinar. That's September 18th, 10 to 11 Eastern Daylight Time. October 9th, what's next for savings groups? This will be kind of a preview of the course that Paul Rippey will be teaching in Arusha. We again have a 2-week track, which is be focusing on kind of the next step of innovation for savings groups. So Paul is going to be talking about some of the innovations, some of the challenges, and some of the interesting developments that are going on in this very wide, and it's October 9th from 10 to 11 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. I think that's about it. I really appreciate everyone's attentiveness during this webinar. I really appreciate the contribution of Ann. You really have done an excellent job of giving us a clear idea of MEDA's work and answering some really good and tough questions about exactly how this work happens on the ground. So thank you, Ann. Thanks to everyone who tuned in today, and hopefully you will visit us again at our next webinar on September 18th. Have a good day. Thank you.